in celebration of Women's Month about women's stereotypes and the perils of maybe falling into binaries and limiting identities according to certain stereotypes which women seem to be prone to, or other people seem to be prone to stereotyping women. So nasty or nice, or maybe we should also add naughty, right? So I'm not going to introduce, you all know me, right? Bambina Olivares. I'm the head of director of programming here at Manila House. And joining us today are four extremely capable and impressive women. Let me introduce them one by one. We have Verallo de Bertotto, who's the CEO of VMV Hypoallergenics. And then we have Myrza Sison, who is a supermodel turned motivational speaker and executive coach. Wawi Navarroza, who is an artist, visual artist and photographer. And Katya Lichauco, who at her very young age, a feminist author and editor with 2 books, right? Already to your name. So, shall we start? Okay. Stereotypes such as we've heard of the Madonna and whore, complex, whore. Okay. This is a safe space, okay?
Get a drink.
Get a drink, yeah.
4 p.m. is the new 6. Oh my God, my happy hour is at 3 p.m. That's clear. Sorry.
Okay. So, I wanted to ask all of you, like, have you fallen prey, or were you raised to think that girls should be nice, or how were you all, like we were just saying earlier, Katya's very nice presenting. And I wonder if that's youth, or and later in life, do you learn to toughen up and become more assertive? I think women are somehow raised, I don't know if that's still the same today, but raised to put their needs last and cater to everybody else. So that kind of furthers the nice binary, nice, nasty and nice binary. So I don't know, how do we start?
How were we raised?
How you were raised, yeah. I mean, most of us probably went to so-called convent schools, right? And certain ideals. Oh, not you. Oh, great. Okay. Certain ideals, right, of what it meant to be a woman, feminine, and you were prepared for marriage, basically. And all the qualities that a wife was supposed to bring to a marriage later, or to become marriageable later on.
Okay, so just to start things off, right? I do think a lot of us were raised in the convent sort of thing, and Madonna whore, you're a whore if you wore lipstick, you're a whore if you started dating or whatever. So I checked all those boxes. Whore, 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 whore. And what was interesting though that I think we don't talk about enough is by the time I got to college and I was in a really progressive university and really embraced and was encouraged to embrace feminism and who I was and all this stuff, then there was another binary where if you did like to cook and you did like traditionally feminine things, you were now stupid or were buying into this patriarchal world that ostensibly you're supposed to be fighting against. And so you were put in another binary of maybe you weren't resistant enough or whatever. And then I found as I've gotten much older, there are other more pernicious, maybe subtle things that I didn't realize. You talked about putting your needs last as a woman. And we were just talking earlier about the idea that if you're not constantly moving and doing everything and exhausted, somehow you're lazy, not worth it. Like I feel like I always have to sort of keep proving my value. I just think that the binary thing is something that a lot of us were raised in and kept getting put into new binaries later on as we aged. That's my thing.
So I was raised by a very Catholic mother and an atheist father. So imagine the push and pull we did not
And
go
they're still
to
married.
and they're still married. So all the nice came from my mother, and all the Catholic shaming and all the stereotyping and all the naughty and the nasty came from my dad. No Catholic school. We went to a Montessori school. After that, I went to a science high school, and then to UP. And so I did not experience all the horror shaming of Catholic school. So it all came from my mother. The judgment, is that how a girl should behave? And so there, I am the product. I think the way I became enlightened was my dad is the owner of Book Sale, a chain of bargain bookstores. And so in the early 80s, when he was establishing it, I had access to all kinds of women's publications from fashion magazines. I remember reading Miss Magazine at age 12.
Wow.
So I had early indoctrination of what feminism was and how on the other side of the world there were alternative ways of living, alternative life choices. And so I thought that everybody knew about that. It turns out that I was the only one. And so when I lived my life according to that kind of knowledge, apparently the rest of society in my world did not. And so I was looked upon as odd and strange. So there. So I guess I had an unconventional life early on, which maybe we can discuss later about
and
the
you're already
lessons.
different from the start.
Wow. As for me, I was through and through Catholic school girl. And I guess that was already like a nice backdrop because you see the contrasts of what could be the possibilities outside of it. So normally, well, in high school, I also was already writing a lot. So my first entry into what could be the bigger world out there was through literature. And coming of age, I was reading the beat poets. I was reading a lot of classical literature, even Dracula, Bram Stoker, and you see all these characters of women. And I guess I would still say it's good to have that kind of baseline Catholic Spanish overload because it prepared me for the art world. Because I think half the art world it's not half, but there's a lot of gaps in the art history in which women artists were not represented. So we're really looking at art through the gaze of male painters of the past. But then, because of my Catholic education, I sort of understood the whole liturgy of what were they depicting. Had I not had the Catholic lexicon, I wouldn't understand what a Madonna and child is. So it's not entirely bad. I actually kind of, because the pendulum has swung so much to whatever was unconventional 20 years ago is now baseline normal. So being traditional, as you said, like women who like to cook, has suddenly become the radical thing to do, right? So this is like the swing back and forth, and I think it's a given in human nature to kind of box to understand other person, but the freeing thing that I think everybody should be given education to is like the understanding of archetypes, because the Jungian, it's not just the whore or it's not just the Madonna. There's plenty of archetypes that we walk through from when we were born until the day we die, also for men. So I guess if we understood that, we can have like a better spectrum. Yeah.
For me, I know I'm very nice presenting. I get that a lot actually, my entire life. So I did grow up in like a very traditional Catholic background. Went to Assumption my entire life until college. And I was that nice girl. That's the way I was raised. I'm the eldest on both sides of my family. Eldest cousin, eldest grandchild, eldest daughter. So there were lots of expectations placed on me to be like quote unquote the perfect child, not to dissent, not to cause any problems. And I didn't see anything wrong with that. When I was in Assumption, I didn't see anything wrong with it at all. My friends would actually call me teacher's pet. I was very goody two shoes. And I didn't see anything wrong with it until much later in my life, like probably the last 5 years. I was already working, and I had experienced like numerous life-changing things that I'll probably talk about later, that made me realize that, hey, like I have a voice and I want to use it. And initially I didn't really know how to do that because I am very shy. And so that's why I turned to writing. I have 2 books, both about Philippine feminism, and those books really helped me find my voice and find the ways that I could communicate all of the things that I felt, that I wasn't able to put into words when I was younger because I didn't have the language to articulate how I felt about all of these unfair expectations of me. And I don't regret any of it. I'm grateful that I have experienced all of that to realize that that isn't me, and that I could also decide, what parts of that I did want to take away from. Like, women are expected to be more nurturing, and I'd like to think that I am too, especially with the people that I care about. But when it comes to, random people who have wronged me or my loved ones, I am not willing to extend that same niceness to them because I realize that I would be doing myself a disservice and also those who matter to me.
And did you notice any changes in the way you were, or the way people would act towards you once your kind of not so nice nature came out?
I mean, yeah, I think people are shocked when I do speak up, but it's something I use to my advantage. Like, all 5'2" of me, people don't think that I could answer back or speak what's on my mind, but I think it is a good tool for me to use to my advantage. And I think it just also proves that, people aren't always what you expect them to be, and that's fine. It's also helped me be more understanding of other people who I think, on the surface may seem mean but are actually very nice or very kind, which is actually something that I prefer to use my friends and I have these conversations a lot, and we all kind of have come to an agreement that none of us are really nice, but we're kind, which I think is more important because it's more authentic and genuine, and it helps us stay like true to ourselves and what we stand for and what our principles are.
So I just want to jump on something that I think a lot of us kind of talked about. You mentioned the word spectrum, pendulum, archetypes and stuff like that. You talked about sort of these 2 extremes growing up in a household, and you talked about a bit of a flow from maybe one to the other. And for me at least, being put in boxes for an easier categorization because we're human and it helps us understand the world, I think is probably expected because it does help us navigate things. But I think where the concerns come is if those boxes become rigid and we don't make room for a flow or a spectrum. And not just a spectrum, but the ability to kind of go from one end to the other in different identities at different times of our lives, right? So I think that that's starting to happen now too with all of these discussions. Everything's on a spectrum now. Back in the day, you were autistic and that was it. Now we talk about it being on the spectrum, right? And I kind of appreciate that language. It's
Even sexuality, they say.
Sexuality, sexual orientation and gender identity, like all of this stuff. And it's not like this is new, but it's nice that it's sort of coming back.
But then there seems to be, you have to say the dreaded word, with a victory of Trump and
Oh
the
Lord,
whole MAGA. No, there seems to be a return. You can see it apparently, you can see it in fashion, you can see it in interior design, lifestyle choices, everything. That kind of trad wife, they call it trad wife, right? And that's like a very rigid kind of stereotype. And that can be also very damaging, right, to women to have to conform to that, because that also assumes not just looks, a certain way of looking, a certain way of acting, a certain economic level as well to be dressed that way and all that. So already that's limiting and excludes a lot of people. So I don't know if you have anything to. I'm sure you do.
So much to say, Vance. Fuck, I mean, how much time do we have? So I shan't. I will. I'll wait muna.
You can start.
You can start this.
Like, I'm so angry. I don't know, as a woman who grew up, I don't know, thinking that already there were so many limitations on certain things about being a woman, to then look back now at the ripe old age of almost 54 and think, fuck, I had it good. Putang ina, like my daughter is gonna be in this, you were talking about the Handmaid's Tale-ness of it, and I'm livid, like I'm angry. So that's why I don't feel like I can speak well about, I'm too emotional, I'm pissed. I'm pissed to have to, what do you mean I don't have control over my body? Or like, what do you mean I shouldn't be going to college? What was that ex-football idiot guy, the commencement speaker, who talked about, he was addressing women in the audience and men and saying, women, I know that you've been taught that work and a career is what you should be looking forward to, but I know that the greatest joy you will have is just being this, that. I'm like, it's 2024, right? Like that. I'm starting to sweat. Oh my God! So
Wait, can I ask something?
please.
But you're talking about America, right? It's been like that in the Philippines ever since. So why
Yeah.
you miss that America now? In the Philippines, it's been like that.
Kasi kokopyahin din natin. It's gonna get worse.
Silang kumopya sa atin.
También. Yes. Also. Sorry, that's a long discussion. I don't know.
But do you think, like as Wawi said, you have art to actually
Q&As later pa pala. Sorry.
to actually confront these stereotypes and kind of rebel against them in a way, or it's kind of a refusal to be boxed in, right? You can use
Yeah.
art for that.
Yes, definitely, but it doesn't look just one way. When you say rebel before, it's almost assume that it should be in that attacking position. But on my end, I would think of more radical ways is to do it not in that way, because it can be the fatigue of the, let's say, the image and the art. But I would do it in such a way that the artist has to be authentic to his or her reality. For example, in my case, I'm a woman and I've been in the arts for as long as I can remember. But I had this urge that I was ashamed about when I was in my 30s, which was the desire to have a child. As an artist, you don't hear that much. And I later on realized that yes, two things can be true at the same time. You can be an artist and you can be conventional in that sense. Because somehow we've also cornered the alternative to be the mainstream, which is so weird. And I decided for myself that no one, not even the art world, can tell me what I want. And at 40, I had my first child. Because if I really, why would we make our artwork in the name of freedom, and then I'll have to sacrifice something that I would, felt in myself. And when I became a new mother, I felt that it even unlocked this kind of ancient wisdom that only comes through the line of mothers. So it's just an example. Like when we say stereotyped or when we say conventional, when we say it could exist in like different, mixed admixtures. Because I lived in this world that's alternative. I've been in a band, but I never did drugs. I was in a band, but I wasn't drinking like crazy. I wasn't that wild. I was, a bit conventional in people's in their opinion. So on the other end, I guess if you're Katya, you could also be looking nice, but you could also have claws and fangs. So that's I guess the combination of the things that are unexpected are the things that are rather more interesting that.
It's funny that you say, because even in the art world, there are certain expectations. So even the artist is stereotyped as a certain, free-spirited, unconventional.
And it should look a certain way.
Should look a certain way, and then you defy that stereotype in a way.
Which since we're talking about it, it always I always felt like I had to explain, or I go to a function and they say, "Oh, you're an artist. You don't look like an
I
artist."
know.
You know, in an innocent,
Yeah.
just say,
What's
so,
an artist supposed to look like?
Unwashed man.
So can you tell me what an artist should look like?
I'm sorry, you look like a racist.
Love it.
So maybe if I look, you know, a little, because I think it's not about how you look. It means that if you look well presented, is that the right word?
Yeah.
It means you're not serious as an artist. Because if you're a serious artist, all your attention goes to the making of the work.
Not
So,
bathing.
entonces, and so ergo, so what if you present well, you took time to, you know, fix yourself, means you're frivolous, you're not so much into your art discourse, all of that. But, like I said, is that even true, Bambina?
Not at all.
So that's the kind of
Yeah.
unconventional, but in this opposite way. So, okay.
Yes.
What I love, I guess, sort of sitting next to these three women in particular, is the diversity we represent just here, right? And the fact that we've talked about it. There's no one way to be a woman. There's no one way to be an artist or a rebel. All this. There's not to bore people into a coma, but there's an interesting writer named Luz Irigaray, who I remember from college. Feminism 101. One of the things I really loved her saying was women, sort of by definition, are naturally plural. You mentioned Jung earlier. If you want to go Freudian, there's the phallic sort of oneness of it. Women, by definition, anatomically, if you want, are plural from the get-go. And I think how we've been raised in society and acculturized, sort of, for good or for bad, brings that out a lot. Like, we're often the unpaid work in the house.
Yeah.
Who's also raising the children, who's also taking care of all the, plus doing now because we want to be empowered, plus the career, plus the ganyan, plus wanting to look good but not wanting to look like it. It's a plurality that I think stereotypes, period, really work against. I like that idea of letting the plurality go. But it's free, goddammit.
And then you, Myrza, you've also made, your unconventional upbringing as well is also reflected in your life choices, whereas Wawi felt the pull of, maternal urges and everything.
Right.
You're adamantly
I think
child-free
it's
by
o-
choice.
My life has only been unconventional here in our society.
Fair.
It just goes to show that they don't know what's going on elsewhere in the world. And so I remember maybe 5 years ago getting a DM from a follower saying, "You got married at 42? Yes. Pwede pala yun?" Really? And I'm like, who told you hindi pwede? My mom. Because they're expected to hit certain life milestones. You have to be married at this age, have a child by this age, have X children by this age. And I can't believe that that was 2020, that was still the case. And I felt so disappointed in my generation who raised them. Their mothers were probably Cosmo readers, and yet they were subjecting their children to the same kinds of stressful expectations that their mothers had.
Is that also because of societal conditioning that
For sure.
you may read all these things,
Yes.
but then you're still expected to conform
for sure.
once you're in the workplace or within a family structure?
Because I have friends who were like myself in my 20s. They were liberated, free, and when they turned into moms, they became helicopter.
Yeah. And then worse with their boys.
Yes.
Then they're like the little princess of the house. So they're also not raising feminist young men.
That happens a lot here.
Yeah.
But also, I think because I have children who are in their 20s, late 20s, and it's like for my older one, it's taken her a while to realize that you don't have to have somebody. Like, you're at a certain age where your friends are all dating. My kids don't live here, but they're all dating and they're all thinking, okay, this might be the guy. And so there's that kind of pressure that they give themselves because thinking, oh my God, if this doesn't work out, who am I going to meet? I'm never going to meet anyone. I'm never going to settle down or get married, and it's not necessarily that they want to. It's more like it's a kind of pressure that they still feel, an invisible pressure, even if they're in a more progressive society. So I don't know if you feel that the same age, though, more or less.
Well, back then, I like interested in actually like getting into a relationship. I didn't really feel any unfair expectation there that like I had to do this, I had to get married, I had to have kids. It was something that I think I developed like on my own. Something that I realized that I wanted on my own. So eventually, like when I am in a relationship now, and I'm very lucky to have a partner who is very supportive of what I do. And I like to make like out these memories, right? But
Blushing.
that was something I think I had to learn also because prior to that, I came from like a completely opposite sort of relationship, and I was in that for 5.5 years. And when I was in it, I didn't realize. I mean, I think when you're in a toxic relationship, you don't think it's as bad as it is until you finally manage to get out of it and develop a sense of self-worth and self-respect to be able to step away and say like, this is not how I want to be treated, and this isn't what I want for myself. And so when I was able to do that, it actually happened at like the perfect time, I think, in my life. When I realized that I had to be on my own and that I had to do my own form of healing and from all of these experiences that I've had prior to that. And when I was on my own, I wasn't really actively looking for any relationship because I was happy being on my own. I was happy trying to learn more about myself and what I wanted and who I was as a person. And so, yeah, in terms of like the expectations placed for me to be able to find someone who is like the perfect person for me, I didn't necessarily have that. It was something that I think came from my own experiences and not those that were external to me that were like imposed on me.
So much wisdom.
I love
Such a
listening
young
to young
person.
people.
Yeah. I think my kids are also going through that. Like the learning to be alone, I think, for every woman is, I think, really, really important also.
Well, so that's the thing that, I'm kind of here. Again, when you're surrounded by people who are just so big and more than just one thing, it's easy to say, right? Or easy to see. But binarisms are just limited. And this is this old semiotician's take on it. It's so hard to maintain anything in nature where you have a strict binarism, right? You're alone or you're with someone. I don't know, maybe I'm both. Maybe I'm in a throuple. Maybe, I mean, diba, parang there has to be room, I think, for at least the questioning of, if I get married, oh my God, it has to last 75,000 years. Does it though? So I was talking to my daughter and saying, if you choose to get married, maybe every 5 years, revisit that shit and still decide, like, is this still for us? Like, do we want to, I don't know. I have my roots sort of in punk and hip hop, and now I'm aging into an old hippie Buddhist wannabe, and the whole idea of flow.
Gen X, in other words.
In other words, I'm Gen X. I'm sort of confused and both and. The flow. We just need to make room for that fucking flow, right? Like, maybe I need to learn to be alone. Maybe I need to have five partners at this time. Maybe I need to kind of flex that. As long as you're two consenting adults. Ain't nobody hurting nobody. Or five consenting adults.
Quintuple.
And there's, I think, parang don't judge na lang. Fucking try it out and see.
We're in a very judgmental society. That's the thing. So
We're not on the stage, so.
no, not on this stage. But at what point, like you, Wawi and Myrza, at what point do you? Well, maybe less you, Myrza, because of the way you were raised, but where you say, I don't care what people think.
Can I continue that?
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm a romantic. I'm turning 46 this year. I don't like when people say you're a single mom as if it's the final end of the road.
Right.
I still like the idea of men
Oh, I love that.
as a partner and as a sexy being. I like that. But now, at this age, I don't feel the need to centralize my life on men,
Yeah.
where it was kind of a thing that we didn't know in our 20s and 30s, that we thought that men would make us happy, that they'd give us the world, that, it's the end all be all, right?
Yeah.
But only to find out that the real answer to all our look and search is really you have to find it in yourself
Yeah.
first, because it's no man's, it's not in the other man. So I guess what I'm saying is that I don't exactly erase it from the equation. Although nowadays the zeitgeist, the younger people have understood that it's not the whole ecology of the relationship is not good right now, because there's not a lot of testosterone for women to live with. I mean, okay, this is science, but if you do like the whole global phenomenon, the testosterone levels of men are not that substantial, and so it's not only the biology, but it's not the way that nature is intended. I think that it's not giving the women what they need. And then the women start to decentralize these men, and then have this movement called 4B. Have you heard of that?
Korea.
4B, in which they just live their lives, try to find their happiness through their hobbies, through their friends, through everything that's like, which is, I think, a good way to arrive at your own self, how to know yourself. Because in the end, you have to know yourself before you can be in a relationship with someone else. Whether it be with another woman, a man, or
For example.
3 men, five.
Or one man for 50 years. That's that.
Yeah,
The
it's really
freedom
about
to choose.
I guess Myrza has been teaching this. Like, we have to remember who we are,
Yes. First, starts with.
which is not easy.
I forgot what your question.
No, how do you shake off all these and say, I don't really care what people think? Because we're in a
Right.
society that really
Right.
has a lot of expectations, even no matter how progressive we think we are, or how much we've developed and everything.
So the way I've lived my life was not intentionally to rebel against society, but just in accordance to the kind of life that I wanted to live. So I didn't want to get married until. Actually, I didn't want to get married, even if I had a partner for 14 years, like I knew at the start. But I guess it took finding my now husband Andre to make me want to get married, but I didn't know that then.
The right
Yeah.
person.
The decision to be child-free I made when I was 20. That early, I think even earlier. I think I wanted to write in my high school yearbook, ambition for everybody's ambition, right? I wanted to write not a wife and not a mother, yama. I didn't, but they were not the end all and be all of my future and my existence. And so, of course, there were comments. Of course, people would approach me like a naked lady in the gym locker said, "Ilang taon ka na? How old are you?" 35. No husband? No. No children? No. Sayang ka. How do you translate sayang ka?
What a waste.
Baka she was
What
hitting
a
on you.
waste. No, she was not.
Malay mo.
She was not.
You were just dense.
She was not. But I got a lot of these comments, but I truly did not I just laughed them off. I had no energy to give like angry retorts, because I just knew that they were speaking out of what they knew in their worlds and from
Yeah.
their existence. There's no point in convincing them, because coming from where I was and coming from where they were and in their own bubbles, there's no point in getting defensive.
And I also see it when we meet young kids, like the kids of our friends and all that, and these cute little kids with pigtails and everything. And then the first thing somebody asks, "Are you at school? How old are you? Do you have a boyfriend?" They go like that to
To the
kids, right?
child.
To the child. And I'm thinking, ask her if she likes horses.
Or so
or-
sexy na.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So it starts like really early on, that kind of conditioning. Like,
Right.
again, the be all and end all has to be finding a partner. But I think
Sure.
life has changed in so many ways that you can be without a partner if
Right.
that's a path you choose to take.
Right. This idea of socialization starting early. There's two great books. A woman named Peggy Orenstein, who's a wonderful journalist, and she has one book called. She has two books. The first one is called Cinderella Ate My Daughter, and it's basically the pinkification of what it means to be a girl. Because back in like the 40s, pink was for boys and blue was for girls. Truly.
The Edwardian.
A while ago, right? And then, so it talks about how this pinkification, commercialization happened. Her other book is even more intriguing, which is Girls and Sex. And she talks about stuff like that. Like girls get, if I'm in pigtails and I'm super cute, then I get everyone's attention. Oh my God, you're so cute. You're so da-da-da-da-da. And the boys come in and they're wearing a dinosaur shirt. They're like, oh, dude, you look so strong. Who's your ganyan? It starts really, really young. And her other book, Boys and Sex, is, I think, a really nice thing to co-read with that, too. But early on, even now, that socialization is happening. That you have to be limited, right? The girls section. I went shopping in H&M the other day.
There's
for-
still signs?
Dude, no,
I thought it's
sorry. That's me.
Girl and boy.
No, which is ironic, the salesperson was trans. Or trans presenting, I'm not, anyway. And so I said, I want to buy a bathing suit for my young in-law, so whatever, the daughter of my brother-in-law. And I want to get for the girls. Okay, ma'am. And took me to the pink section. And I was like, but parang she also likes sharks. Mom, ito lang for girls. I was like, okay, so A, you're clearly trans, and I'm here in the pink section, and you are adamantly refusing to bring me to the trucks and sharks and dinosaurs section, which I thought was interesting, right? I mean, yeah, it starts young, even now.
Still go to the kids section. Lucky you.
I guess it's the girls section.
Yeah, the girls section. So no sharks there.
No sharks.
Because I thought in the States, well, I don't know now, but they were removing the sign, the girls and boys toys signs.
Interesting.
But maybe they'll be back now.
That's right. Now they'll be back.
I always tell friends of mine who have sons, the power to change the next generation of men lies in your hands. So please do not accept them from chores. Do not treat them like your surrogate husbands or like a king.
Oh yes, exactly. Exactly.
And you, wow, you're raising a son on your
Right.
own.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you're mindful of all these things as well. You also want him to be grow up to be a man
Of
that
course.
treats women.
Like we are in the land of it's a matriarchy in the Philippines. It's beautiful in a sense, but we all have heard of Mama's voice, and now that I have a boy, I would also like to think that it's not just me who's raising him. The whole family, extended family, ninongs, ninangs. So he's not only getting his how you say it, he's learning about life from me, and then also the Filipino culture in that context. Yeah. So it's for me, I don't forbid him to with the toys, but I also want him to have male role models. In terms of his values formation, for sure. Like there are things that I can't teach him because I simply don't have the male anatomy. Okay, so it's also a truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. The answer.
Did you see any difference in the way you and your brother were raised?
Oh, definitely.
Oh,
I was an only child for 8 years.
Oh.
So,
gap was
yeah, the gap is very big. And again, being the eldest in the family on both sides, my mom was pretty hard on me growing up. And I'm actually really grateful for that because I think it also helped me form my own values. And also, it also made me grateful for, all of these things that she instilled in me gave me a sense of agency as well. When I grew up, I realized that my mom let me be my own person. And she was so hard on me and so strict on me because she knew that the world out there was tough. And it is, and I realized that also on my own. And she was hard on me with everything, in terms of manners, school, education, everything. And I think I really also wanted to do my best to make her proud. My brother, on the other hand, came 8 years later, and he's a boy. So it was very, very different. I would complain about how she was a lot more lenient with him. He seemed to get away with murder, and I didn't. But now that my brother is of age, he's 19, I feel like we are able to talk to each other as adults. And so I'm also able to talk to him about certain things that I feel and things that I've experienced from an adult to an adult, not anymore a child. And not like I see now that although we were raised differently, we do share in the same values. And I think that was something that was common in how we were raised. It was just like really the instilling of these values and principles. So when I talk to him now, it's also like I'm talking to a friend. I feel very comfortable telling him about how I feel about certain things or calling him out also on certain behaviors. But now I feel like the dialogue is a lot more seamless than it was before. I used to scream at him so much for like doing certain things that would piss me off. Because guys, you sometimes really have to spell things out for them to be able to understand. But I think it really is important to have these conversations with them. When I published my first book, Big Deal, we also didn't want to limit our audience to just women. We really stressed the importance of sharing it with men also, and it actually opened up a lot of doors to having conversations with our guy friends who didn't realize that women have it have it like really hard sometimes. And I think that was something that we didn't really intend to do it at the start, but as we were going through the process of putting the book together and talking to all of our contributors, we realized that we have to involve the men too. And so I'm grateful that the reception, like at least among our male friends, was very positive. And it also helped them take a step back and reevaluate certain behaviors that they may have had in the past that were not okay, especially in terms of consent and all those other touchy topics. And that's also something that I try to talk to my brother about a lot because there is that gray area sometimes, especially in terms of consent. So although we were raised differently, at least now we can talk as grown-ups and understand each other a lot better.
That's really important, I think, in rape, we're talking about rape culture, is that women tend to be, that binary tends to be very, very dangerous as well, because then you hear men say, oh, she asked for it or something because of what she was wearing. But then, there are lots of documented cases where even nuns have been raped. So it's really not what they wear. But so it's men also saying, oh, not all men, right? So there are men that want to be stereotyped as the good boys, But then I think that to be good men, you have to advocate for women. And a lot of them also don't, choose not to, while asserting their goodness.
Yeah, I think we should, at an early age, for women, we have to let them know that not all men are like your relatives or your father or your nearest male, that there are some men who are really predators. And as women, the first layer of protection we can get is to not play the victim in our lives, because that attracts a predator. So if we go forth in our lives with a certain confidence, a certain empowered knowing of our worth, then these predators, you can spot them from a mile away. So, because sometimes when we're young, teenagers, they're not so sure of themselves, and I guess we need to, teach the younger generation how to have that sense of self early from the get-go, from the earlier years.
We can also teach our boys to not rape.
That too. Well, that too. That too. That's kind of it's the main thing.
And sometimes actually predators aren't that obvious.
Yeah.
Like it's someone you least expect.
Mhm.
I think that's also something super important to
Yeah.
point out. I mean, it's something that I have experienced, someone that I least expected, and I feel like that's also how the binary gets very dangerous. When you're perceived as like the nice girl, the girl who doesn't cause any problems, who just keeps to herself, keeps quiet, then you can also be taken advantage of that way. When it happened to me, and it was someone who was very close to me, someone that I had grown up with my entire life, I felt that he expected me to just take it sitting down, to just keep quiet and move on with my life. And I could have done that. I initially thought that I would be able to just shut up and move on. But then I realized why why would I do that? And actually this happened as I was putting together Big Deal. And it was very tempting to just say I can't do this anymore. But I also felt that the contributors had entrusted us, my partner Yana and I, with their stories. And we didn't want to let them down. And so I also was able to draw strength from the fact that I had all of these women in my corner. And I wanted to push through with the book and to be able to advocate for myself that way. And when I was able to do that and actually talk about what happened to me, I didn't shy away from talking about it. Like anyone close to me knows that. And it was really pushing through with the publication of Big Deal that I felt, okay, like I will not let my voice be taken away from me. And I remembered also that the book's title Big Deal was because we wanted to call it Big Deal because we wanted to tell all of our readers that, hey, whatever you're going through, it's a big deal. Like, don't sweep it under the rug, don't shrug it off and just say it's okay when it's not.
Yeah.
And I think being able to actually do that, you're actually able to overcome all of these binaries and expectations that are placed on you, and reclaim your power in doing that.
Thank you for sharing. It's important. And I want to sort of talk about that as well. Like there's, it's interesting too, you watch sort of TV shows. So the first thing I want to say is it's really sad, and I think a lot of men are really shocked when they hear this, that every second woman has had some sort of thing that they've had to deal with. An unwelcome advance from an uncle when you're 10, or something else that was creepy, right, in some bar, or a professor, or whatever, or various levels of harassment and assault. What I think is interesting, besides the binary of was she asking for it, etc., is also how we look at survivors, right? So some women are not ready to share anything, and that's really okay. It's their damn business. Other women are ready to sort of hold up the torch and take it forward, which is, I mean, thank you to them for all of womanhood, right? But there's also, when you look at, honestly, this whole thing with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard really bothered me because of the extreme just vitriol against her. And I was like, you know, it's hard. Survivors don't usually fit into a perfect little package of not lying, not being sexually promiscuous. It is trauma is a complicated thing. And people respond to trauma in many, many ways. Some people will lie, some people will go on drugs, some people will get even more sexually promiscuous, some will get extremely aggressive, and other people will disappear from the limelight. So this whole idea, I guess, is what I'm saying, of binarisms can be harmful in so many ways. Obviously, not just gender and sexuality, but survivorship, you know, entitlement, all these other things. So, yeah, important conversation to have, for sure. For sure.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I was thinking one of the, I don't know, I was like, was I not listening? Did somebody not say yet? I think one of the first, the most basic binary attitude towards women is if she's nice, if you're nice and compliant, you're a good girl. And if you're not, and if you're powerful and in charge, you're a bitch.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like the basic binary judgment.
Exactly.
And so it's like that's the first thing you have to navigate.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
to
Absolutely.
if you're just
True.
gonna think I'm a bitch. And if it's like, and if you continue, then oh shit. Why is that a bad thing?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, and
Right.
that's like the bitch, so she's a bitch, and then she's gay.
It's from
And there's history to that. There's history even in the witch trials. A lot of women were deemed witches because they were empowered, right? They didn't quite fit the right, so therefore she had to be just change one letter.
Exactly.
But don't forget, in the Philippines, we had 2 female
Yes.
presidents.
That's
true.
Because that's not enough. So there is
There's a
different
difference.
interpretation
Correct.
Yeah, for sure.
here. It's not completely disappeared, but in some ways
We're more advanced.
evolved.
Yeah, we're complex actually. Yeah.
So what I've discovered is that I've been through a shitload of things in my life. Separation, whatever. Reassessing of friendships that, you feel you've outgrown, you just changed paths. But I feel that in my whole life, the one that's built my confidence and helped me be the woman that I am today is actually my husband. So he's male. And he's done so good for me and for my kids. But the most judgment that I ever received in my life were from other women.
From other women.
Other women who act like old mean girls that actually look and judge harshly and compare, and they I learned something called foul weather friends. There are fair weather friends who are there for you when things are good, but there are foul weather friends who like it when you're down and like will not celebrate as you win. And normally these are other women. Like, who does she think she is? What is she doing? They don't cheer for you as you win. And so just to sort of throw that in, it makes it even harder as a woman when other women are the ones trying to drag you down or judge you or have preconceived notions because you fix yourself, oh, for sure, she's shallow because all she does is work out or all she does is this. But no, I have a really full life. I have the same hours of the day as you, but I just choose, not to go to every single opening of an envelope. I choose to invest in myself and in my family, and then you're judged. So it's kind of harsh.
It is.
And we're all acculturated to be that to a certain extent. Like I remember, being in New York and having a woman boss was actually the worst thing because oh my God, the judgment was so ridiculous and people don't cry. You don't cry? I don't cry. And of course, as I get older, I'm like, right, because the openings were so few. So it was guarded, right? And for a time, actually, one of my maybe most shameful things that I admit to is, for a time, and I think my sister and I, she's right there, beautiful, fantastic doctor, brilliant. But she and I were talking about the fact that back in the day, I joined the chorus of, Monica Lewinsky, that fat pig and what a liar and whatever, or Brooke Shields because I grew up in that. And so I saw women in the way that I was taught to see other women, to judge them for being beautiful or judge them for being trad wives or whatever. It took many, many years of sort of unlearning that for me as well to kind of realize we're all freaking... It's like, I'm sorry, but Filipinos who vote for Trump or honestly, like colorism in black societies and stuff, we're all fed the same shit. And it just hurts all of us, right? Even people who are supposed to be allies. Wala, ganun din yung education natin eh. So we don't show up for each other either. However, when you do get enlightened women who are brilliant and whatever, oh my God, that power, that joy, that magic is indescribable. Jane Fonda talks about it, right? I don't know who I'd be without my female friends. Christ almighty, it's like, it's electric. I don't even know. I don't know who I'd be without my amazing women. Even if they don't like me, but I admire them, I want to be in their orbit. Like I think it's magic when you find that. So.
Well, you were citing a study earlier, Harvard study, right?
Oh, right. The longest running study on happiness from Harvard, the one that's running 70 odd years. And it's saying the key to longevity is strong social bonds.
And women are probably better at that.
And there are other studies that show it's female friendships because of the way they are, the vulnerability and all that, are much, much more powerful.
Can I add something before I lose my train of thought? From, sorry, what's your name? Hi. I agree with you, and I totally claim to be a bitch now at this age because it's better that way. It protects me from all the the what Joanna was saying about women who are, have some hidden agenda,
No, how they judge.
how they judge and how they are secretly envious of your life, how they are. Some women have, I don't know what's that gene that makes them betray. The betrayals in friendship, betrayals with all of that. We cannot deny this dark side of the female nature. So I'd rather be the bitch, and in my work, I've entitled it La Bruja. La Bruja this, La Bruja that, La Bruja this.
That's it.
Because it means you cannot get past this layer of protection.
You're protected.
And because women, we only allow what we allow, right? And we develop that discernment either from bad experience or through age, and all of that. And then we graduate to the real friendships. Because we by then learned how to vet and categorize our friendships. These are for my, this kind of friends. These are like my ride or die friends. These are the ones that I'm not gonna say anything at all because they're gonna use it against me. And there are. And so it's really that kind of maneuvering the landscape of female archetypes within our relationships, because that could range from darkest dark to the lightest light. Like I've read the whole Camille Paglia book, and I suggest you do, because it takes you into that netherworld of what a human female is, right? Like, what did they say about a woman scorned?
Hell hath no fury.
I've seen my mom. I've seen my titas. We all know the whole earth shaking, and we are also like that. I guess all within ourselves, right? So I'd rather have that bitch right away given a name, because it also prevents us from being people pleasers, pick-me-shas.
Yeah.
Especially with men, I don't wanna make this man work so hard because I'm nice, or I don't want him to think that I'm a princess or whatever, because that was the conditioning.
Yeah.
I'd rather be like, I don't care, I have a thing to go to, right? And then whatever. So that protects you also from having to do something that you don't like later on with them. Because the worst place to be in is if you're rather people pleasing all the time.
I totally agree. And just saying, but I think the problem is it's a woman who's powerful as a bitch, which is because you're protecting yourself and you're powerful, and the nice girl is the good girl, and then she's so nice. But if it's a man, he's such a great leader.
So
He's
successful,
Yes.
so powerful.
Wow. I mean,
Makes
and
him look
then if he's
attractive.
not- and if he's
Yeah.
compliant and he's like this, he's a faggot.
Yeah.
So there's this. It's not necessarily what you're doing. It's how they're labeling you.
Mm.
Like we were talking about, the whole discussion started. It's the labels.
The
that are
labels,
So toxic.
But isn't it liberating to know that as you grow older, maybe it was just
Girl,
Yes.
listen.
That's
You
what
couldn't
she's
pay me
saying.
enough money to be 20 again.
Yes.
Listen. Oh my God, I'm so freaking happy to be 54 almost. Jesus H. Christ, the
Yeah.
zero fucks left to give is the best way to be. It is so awesome. And it doesn't even have to come, because I was an angry young woman. As you can probably tell, I was really an angry young woman. What I love is I'm getting older. I was just awful. So, this is my point. When you get older, that expansiveness that comes from zero fucks left to give, parang it's not even galit anymore. It's, I know you're petty and judgmental. I get it. Bullied people get also bullied, diba? Parang I get it. You'll grow out of that. I love this magnanimity that's coming out of me like an old fucking Buddha. Game, diba? Yeah, right? All of a sudden, this grace and compassion, right? So fantastic. I love it. Sorry. Biglang kwentuhan na. Sorry.
No, it's true. Like she said, she's proud to be the bitch.
Yeah, and then
Why not?
on the opposite
But
side,
it's their problem that they're calling them that.
exactly, and
That's
then
the problem.
But please, if I'm a bitch, don't expect me to always have an opinion. Because sometimes they say, oh, you're rah, 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 you know, power all the way, like, you're the strong woman, power through all the time, like that. But I learned also, this is probably the Asian kind of power, is to be silent is powerful. Like sometimes we're like thinking rah, 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 is like, you're tired, exhausted, and then nothing moves an inch. But if you're silent, let them like, you know, stew in their thoughts, you'll get more action. And you did nothing. You're just having a gin tonic and just like, that's, I think, also another power, right? Like the Asian quiet. What do you call that? The Asian, you just, yeah, silence. And you just you, as a woman, I think it's also our power to sometimes just, you know, not to, our words have power. So if we kind of select not to speak, it's also a power in a sense. If we withhold our opinions for a second, or yeah, it only comes in this age, because I thought in my 30s as an artist that all the time there should be a statement, all the time there should be a strong fight for injustice, and you know, all of this against the grain. But then also, only at this age I've realized that, you know, there's also another way.
Pag-aaralan ko yan.
Mahirap
Yeah,
siya. Mahirap siya gawin eh.
Yeah.
Mahirap talaga siya gawin. It's really like Zen mind control.
That is something
yeah.
to grow into. Thank you.
Or pagpagod ka na.
Just zone out.
Yeah.
Not my, what? Not my monkeys, not my circus.
There you go.
There you go. There you go.
Do you have any other questions
Or comments.
or comments?
I want to just speak for 1 second. So loud as my sister, she called me out already. I think one of the things I've been so impressed by, she's raising a son, he's a 14-year-old now. And ever since he was a baby, when we would have movie nights, she would pause like a scream. Like
What's wrong with this scene?
There's a kissing scene. She's like, what's wrong? Did he ask for consent? Did she say yes? And she's like, no, mama. He's like, and he's so good now. So every time she's like, wait, what's wrong? Did he? She's like, yes, I know he did it. I get it. And I think it's so important, you talked a little bit about that, sometimes it's the nice guys. Like, I think it's important that in growing up, in teaching these young men to grow up, it's not just about, being nice, it's about asking about things, it's about discussing things like consent at a very young age, because, especially like in the boys' schools here, right? Like there is still quite a strong culture of boys lang yan, boys will be boys, right? And I think that it's one thing, like I get the idea of, yes, it's important to teach women and girls about being strong, like not going down like a shady dark alley. But on the other hand, I think it's equally important to tell these boys, hey, no, a girl should be able to go down a shady dark alley. Like that shouldn't be scary. It shouldn't be scary to go to the mall, whatever. Like all of these things, and I think that it's important to stress that point with like boys growing up, that it's not boys will be boys. Like things like that are not okay. You need to like be aware of consent.
I guess breaking the cycle of stereotyping really starts from socialization of children. And so we need to do I have no children, but for those who do or know others who do, spread the word about.
Also, I think that's so pernicious as well, because even my daughter seemed to think that the guy has to be a little bit of a bad boy, a little exciting or something, and then a good one comes along and but he just seems so boring.
I would like to add a little bit of context here. It's age appropriate. I wasn't talking about assault with my 3-year-old boy. At that point, it was, if you're playing and it's not fun for them, it's not fun.
Disclaimer.
Just so we're clear. Sorry.
In fairness, I think it might have been Beauty and the Beast
It might have been Beauty and the
There's a whole lot of
Beast. so-
consent issues when you say
Consent.
Just saying.
And also you started with, I think, 1 out of 2 women has experienced. I think it's much higher than that.
It's crazy, right?
I don't think it's 1 out of 2.
It's really high.
Yeah, but you also have women who refuse to admit that they've experienced any
Well,
kind of
that's why we don't
harassment
know.
because they don't want people to think that they were that kind of girl.
Because they
and
victim blame.
that's yeah. But that's
And that happens
where
in
they
our
are
circle,
now.
Julie,
See, that's
also.
what I
All
was
the
getting
time.
at.
That's what I hate. That's right. I tell you, that used to drive me crazy when the whole Me Too started. I would just rant. I would rant. I remember
Yeah.
ranting to you. Because I'm like, it is not. It is everyone. I'm telling you, it is every single
It's
woman.
really so.
It breaks my heart.
It really, really
But
is.
it requires a lot of bravery. Like that
Yeah.
French
Oh, yeah.
woman who was
Oh yeah.
Oh yes,
Oh,
Giselle
yeah.
Calippo.
See, she should have been Time Person of the Year.
She should have been.
She should have been.
But I must admit, I don't know.
Giselle.
Oh, Giselle.
Exactly.
It was Trump, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's what makes her brave.
Sorry, I know
There's a male
Joanna
voice
had
here.
Joanna had her hand up, and then Baby Martin, this wonderful lady.
Oh, Jen.
No, so just, I wanted to take off from what she said, where she said, you know, like in the boys' school, they say, oh yeah, because boys will be boys or whatever. And yeah, that's very true in our society. That's how we're raised. So that's why when we have sons, we try to teach them other things, right? Like you with your son, me with my 2 boys. But I also have a daughter. And so many times, like I said, they're mean girls that grow up to be old mean girls. And because we, as a society, also say, girls will be girls. They'll make chismes, they'll be mean, they'll do that. And I think no.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think that, you know, there's a lot to be said about raising girls that will be good girlfriends later on.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to be
Yes.
said about boys that will grow up to be good husbands, good friends, good whatever. But
Yeah.
as mothers, it's our responsibility
Yeah.
to raise really good women.
Can I share a specific story that is actually, to me, I thought this was really interesting. My daughter was like, oh my God. That's how it starts with the young girls, right? Oh my God, Mama, you know, so-and-so, good-looking young boy. You know, everyone's saying he's so mayabang. He likes all the attention because he's so guapo and everyone wants his autograph. Ganyan, ganyan. Oh my God, he really likes it. And I said to her, okay, so give me a second here. What are his options? If a stranger in a volleyball game comes up to him and asks for his autograph, what should he do? Say, ew, no. So is he not then an asshole? So if he's kind and says, sure, selfie, why not? So then he's a dick because he likes it? So I said, let's try to imagine putting ourselves in his position. What are his choices here? Baka naman he's trying to be gracious to this fan or whatever, right? But I agree with you. I think there's room for kindness, to use your word earlier, not nice, kind. There's room for kindness from a very young age across the genders. I think it's a skill,
you
for
teach your
sure.
kid you teach your daughters not to react to envy and jealousy, to be that girl that gives somebody a hard time. You know, I mean, you raise good women, nice,
Also.
strong women.
Also.
Because in the Philippines, many people, I mean, girls will be girls like in Assumption, right? So like, you know, like when I was in Assumption, they're like, yeah, because girls will be girls, right? You know,
Yeah.
my sister got a tattoo when she was in Assumption, and that's why it's in the handbook now. Because of my sister. And she was super judged by others. Oh,
Yeah.
for sure she takes drugs. For sure she does this. And it was all girls.
Right.
My sister was an honor student, graduated, you know, at magna cum laude in college. She never, well, she maybe partied, but she certainly, the tattoo didn't define her.
Yeah.
But girls, women judge other women, which is why another point I wanted to make, I'm very careful now about the use of the word friend. I don't cheapen it. There are business associates,
Right.
I have clients, I have acquaintances, and I have friends.
Right.
Yeah.
So we should normalize those categories. One of you said about having to categorize people as you get older. That's what I've learned. Not everyone is a friend. There are ways to deal with different relationships in their proper context.
And also, I think as you grow older, you learn that you don't need that many friends.
You don't.
Right?
My circle is now a dot, I said.
Sorry, this is it's Martin and then she also.
Martin.
Male voice here.
So
I'm
I'm not about
curious.
to change just to defining that, but I'm speaking for the 10%.
Right.
5%. Also, I was listening to everybody.
Yeah, we need a mic.
So I'm very proud that my daughter is, but it's not just. I won't take long, take about 30 minutes. No, siguro there was no question, obviously, because this is defining women. But maybe from a father's point of view also. So, yes, Katya was born 1997. And then 8 years older than my son. But just maybe 2 Sundays ago, or when we were in a trip to Tokyo, I really saw I really saw the relationship evolve between my children, from wanting to throw each other, just throw them under the bus or what. I really saw how it evolved. So that's the first thing, and how they're like friends and they ask for advice. The second thing I'd like to bring up is, don't worry, it's not you about Yumio, is when Katya was facing her, probably the biggest challenge of her life, what I was really proud of. Obviously, that's my princess, right? But I like how Katya said, Papa, let me fight this challenge on my own. And there were no questions about, no, Kat, of course, as a father, I was very, but I just wanted to say that because I saw that battle and I saw her, she emerges to victory in that battle. So I'm not promoting I just think people who are
You should
siblings-
promote your daughter. She's awesome.
Yeah, when she's leaving tomorrow, I'm gonna miss her. No, but I just had to say that. No?
Yeah.
Thank
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
There's male validation for you.
There's a question. Lady back there.
I just want to share my part as a single mom. As a single mom, I have my only son. Myrza knows my son very well. He's 32 years old, and it's very hard to explain to the child that women are different. Okay, so for example, I always tell him that one day you will have a girlfriend, and then your girlfriend will not be in a mood to talk to you. And then I will always tell him, meron kasi siya. You know that? Meron kasi siya frustration. So there are 3 days. You should teach your children. There are 3 days that the women has. We call that puru pa. How do you say? Crazy. And then when there was a time that he is already into a relationship, will always come to me because we have a very open communication. Will always come to me, Mama, I really don't like women. I want to give up. And I said, is that her period? So you have to tell children, guys, na there are cycles of women. It's not women are women to be cared of, but there are also cycles to be respected. Kasi maraming like for example, when they're growing up, they will be with the boys only. They will try to make jokes of the women, but also the biological cycle of a woman, and also women as must not be, kasi in the office in Europe, should be women are the category is the men first who must have the responsibility, and the woman is always the second. How do you say that? She wants to be there, but it's because of his brain and his capacity to lead. And I always say that women leaders are one of the best, especially in Europe. I really vouch on that. Alam niyo why I'm telling this? Because I'm working with a digital group and I'm the oldest, so they don't want to listen to me sometimes. It's very frustrating, but of course, being women, working with the young generations, millennials, we still need to fight for our.
Can I?
Yeah.
You said 2 things I find really interesting. One is the hormonal complexity of women, and in the spirit of talking about binarisms, I think it's important also because historically, we have heard that criticism of women can't lead because hala, Pag meron yan, maloloka na yan, emotional. And yet we saw in the White House, it wasn't women who were getting emotional. Sorry. So,
Men say, why are you acting
I
like
freaking
you're
exactly. So, but it is a thing. Women do have hormones, perimenopause. I love all the new research that's going into that now. I love that more men are being taught about menstruate, but not in the caricaturish, stereotypical way. Na malaloka lang yan once. It's, dude, does your girlfriend have her period? Maybe you should get her a tampon or something. You know. I think there's opportunity for that.
I think nowadays it's included in policy actually.
Yeah.
If you're talking about European policy, Spain has in the labor code, the women have their days off during their their periods because it really is something undeniable. And I think this is something that we can all learn from biology again. I always go back to biology because the differences between men and women shouldn't be discounted as well. Instead of we need to learn how to harness it. Because women, if we're all the time work to our limits, then we get sick. Our immune system is very fragile. Only women have autoimmune diseases. Not only, but majority of women have autoimmune diseases. Not like men who can handle more stress because of testosterone, like I was mentioning earlier. So when we talk about the cycles of women and relationships, I guess there are now education on let's say on the high school level that what happens in a woman's luteal phase, what happens in a woman's like this. So you harness it, depends on their capacity. Like after menstruation, when you're done with your period, you're extraordinarily physically strong. So then that's where you put the load. And then when we hit the other, nearing our period days, then we lighten the load. So the workforce has to also adjust to this because women are not made to have that. Our cycles are 28 days compared to men whose cycles are, I guess, 48 hours to renew their hormones. So it needs a lot of replenishing. A lot of women, I had hormonal stuff, so it's the power of rest in women is something that we only have learned after the pandemic. And so bringing up biology is something, how to explain it in a daily life sense, no? We're not there yet.
My takeaway from what Jet said is to raise boys with empathy, share your experience, I guess, as a woman. I don't know if there are studies that show that maybe boys raised by single mothers grow up to be better men.
No, actually, they said I'm a geek, so I read a lot of statistics. Though in America, at least the jail, the ones who are incarcerated, most of them have single mothers. So it means that they didn't have a father figure. The whole modeling of the male was kind of lopsided maybe. So I was very conscious about that because I'm a single parent now, right? So there's only to an extent that the mother can give a male modeling to
But maybe I'd like to think that her sharing with her son what she's gone through and the son seeing what the mothers go through makes them
It's true because
better people.
it's from what I hear, you're very close.
Yeah.
So you can correct at the nip and the bud, let's say.
And he was with me in all the struggles, failures, and ups. So when I'm hating my job, he was with me, and I will explain to him. I'm very open. Of course, I'm not giving him the responsibility to become a shock absorber, but then sometimes it helps him understand also how a woman reacts, something like that. But regarding the father figure, they have the lolo, the uncle, and he's very, my son, he loves to be with an older friends. So I don't think, he's now 32. And of course, when you have a relationship to somebody, when you have a partner, it's a phase of life. What I always tell to all my friends who have their children, don't introduce them to your child Because pag nagpalit ka ng boyfriend, iba na naman introduce mo. Pag nagpalit ka ng boyfriend, iba na naman introduce mo. Para ma-establish niya what a woman is, na mag-trust din siya sa other woman when they will have a relationship. Kasi yung sinasabi niya about the relationship, I cannot be with a man 365 days. So, well, with my son, yes, but now he's adult. He understands better when he is now in a relationship, long-time relationship, and he understands better. But can nagsasabi siya sa akin na when he's telling the problem of the relationship, he understands better now kasi nga, he's adult na. So that's it.
Just reminds me of the song of Lola, Messy, right? It's all. Have you heard that song? You know that song. She talks about Lola Young, this British pop sensation now, and she talks about all these different, binary stereotypes. How and I mean, part of it is about having ADHD, right? Or being ADHD. And it's like, I'm so messy, I'm so clean, told me to get a job.
I'm a bitch, I'm a lover,
Yeah,
I'm a
exactly.
Same song.
And then she has she has a line there which says 1,000 things I could be for you, and you hate the whole damn lot. So it's like, whoa. So, it's kind of like what we face as women.
Can we rephrase them now? What do we like about being a woman?
Yeah, to close. Yeah, okay.
What do you like being, or do you like being a woman? First and foremost.
I love being a woman.
Yeah.
I think going back to what I mentioned earlier about how women are said to be more nurturing and empathetic, I agree. I think, like what I said also, with men sometimes really have to spell things out, but for women, I think that comes a lot more innately. And I think it's something to really harness your empathy and your kindness, because that also goes back to the fact that you can be kind, and you can be a bitch. Like, it's not mutually exclusive. I think sticking to just binaries limits us from being like our true selves. And so, yeah, I love being a woman because I know that like empathy and all those good things come more naturally. And I think that's also something to own and to be proud of, and also to be able, when you have that sort of empathy, you're also able to understand why people are the way that they are. And also it helps you filter out, certain people that you don't necessarily have to extend the same kindness as you would to someone who really matters to you. Let's say if it was someone who has wronged you in the past, or who will not change, and who has hurt maybe someone that you love, then you don't have to extend that same kindness and compassion towards them. And to just really focus on the people in your circle that you do care for and you do love, and try to be the best at that in whatever way or form. And yeah, I mean, I think with being a woman, there are a lot more possibilities now. Although the binaries do exist, I think women now are given more avenues to be able to navigate who they want to be. Yeah, like I saw it with our book, Big Deal. We really want to celebrate the different ways there are to tell a story, and that's why we also included different mediums. We have essays, artworks, and photographs, because we wanted people to be able to articulate the things that matter most to them, both like the joys and the struggles of being a woman in whatever medium they were most comfortable in. So I think also just celebrating that there are so many different ways of being a woman is something beautiful.
I love being a woman. Thank you for that very wonderful question.
We should end this positively.
I love being a woman because you can be anything and everything. You just have to find the power to do so. And it's my mission in life to help as many women as I can step into their power and embrace it. I thank you.
Perfect. I want to record it.
Okay. I love being a woman because I feel like we have to love being women. So let me explain this. One of the reasons we're aware of being women is because we're othered. If I were othered in other ways, if I were gay, if I had different abilities, if I were on the spectrum, if I were black in a white society, whatever, I would be as hyper aware of my otherization, and therefore the act of loving yourself is an act of resistance and empowerment. I mean, you talk to someone in power who is of the hegemony, to use that word, they don't naman all that time think about, I love myself because I'm a dude who owns like the, it's a given. You just go through life kind of enjoying life. You don't have to think about this stuff, right? The privilege of it. I have privilege, we all have privilege on different levels here, and I'm very grateful for that. I don't know, we're all put on this earth as whatever we are. We would be a slug or a tree or whatever, and we'd have to love that anyway. But I think because women are still othered, or certain extreme societies are really still abused or held down, I think it is an act of resistance, love, and empowerment to love ourselves as women. So that's why I love being women.
Looking at the interior, I love being a woman because women's desires are limitless. And because our desires are limitless, we create worlds that is infinite. All that we see around us is because of a woman's desire that was actualized into material because of that desire. So in that sense, we are source. We're really the source of matter. Matter in Latin is mother. Matter, materials, all of that, we are the source. Whether or not you are a biological mother, but we have the capacity to inspire in ways that are not just hardcore all at once like that. The power that we have is rather innate, and it's passed on, and we build community. And that we are in charge of gatekeeping the generations that has come through and will come through. And that to me is like something that's a privilege, and we are in this generation given, a lot of the way that they pave the path to our, what do you call it? It's like being able to speak and being able to be empowered in that sense. So I think, especially living at this time, it's so great to be a woman.
Thank you so much to our speakers today. I hope the men here learned something today. We're all here to support and uplift each other.
Happy Women's Month!
Happy Women's Month! Thank you for joining us.